We are here with the fabulous Debra Morrison, and I want to tell you a little bit about my friend. Debra founded the Women Navigating Finances and the We Can Do It Women movement. She retired 4+ decades, not years, decades, practicing as a CFP. She has her master's degree in retirement planning and asset management. A TEDx speaker, Debra speaks on stages and podcasts, emphasizing that our two most important assets are time and health, urging women not to waste either one. Welcome. I am so honored to have you here today. You have 42 years of experience, which just blows my mind, in personal financial planning and asset management. What is your superpower?
Dottie, thanks. And it was child labor. But I really believe that money isn't just money for so many women, particularly. It's really loaded. And so I want to peel away some of the socialization that has generally been really horrible for mature women. I view money as a tool. And I'm comfortable holding money. And I encourage my clients and women everywhere to get out $100 bill from the bank and put it in your home someplace, have it in your hands, be comfortable, because money is energy. I think the superpower that I bring to the table is talking about money in terms that we can grasp as women and feel comfortable with. And I think energy is one of those adjectives.
You are 100% right on that. I love holding $100 bills in my hand. Is it ever too late for a woman to start figuring out her finances?
Certainly not. And that is a question, however, that many women have asked me. It's just too late, or they really just said, oh, it's too late for me. I can't get math. And so I want us to start now, right? Everybody knows the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago, the second best time now. And so I want us to get in the game. Now, I make an analogy like if we went to get a mammogram and afterwards the radiologist and the doctor called us into the small room in the side and said, we detected a small lump in your breast. There's not one of us that's going to say, small, cares. I'll deal with that later. And yet we somehow push that whole controlling our money and learning about money to later to our own peril. And it can be deadly in many, many capacities. And so I want us to take money seriously. I want us to bring money, Dottie, from the silo over here that we've somehow pushed it over because we're hardwired with common sense, right? And yet money is over here. I want to bring that silo called money into our wheelhouse and deal with it because it's really very common sense. And we can do it, women. Yes, we can.
What do you say to the women out there who just say they're too afraid?
I was friends with Dr. Susan Jeffers, who unfortunately has died. And yet she had written so many New York Times best-selling books, not the least of which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I quote Susan by saying, when so many are out there doing it despite the fear, we must conclude fear is not the problem, rather how we hold the fear. So she developed a pain power continuum. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's absolutely brilliant. On the pain side, we're helpless, we're depressed, we're paralyzed. On the power side, we're filled with choice, excitement, and action. And the beauty of the continuum, Dottie, is that we all can slip into fits of indecision and paralysis. Yet we know because of this continuum idea that we can slide ourselves over to power. And that's the power I want us women to reach down, grab, and put to the fore for our own benefit. So let's hold our fear from a position of power.
That is a wonderful analogy. I've never heard that before, and it makes total sense. And that kind of leads into my next question. I've heard you use the word finances a lot since I've known you, and you can basically translate any financial concept into plain English. How do you do that?
I use analogies a lot because it works, right? I talk about squirrels in the Northeast, and around August, September, they run around with acorns in their jowls. They're because they know they're going to be hungry in the winter, right? So I say we got to be smart as squirrels. We can't eat everything we bring in the door, right? We want to follow recipes, particularly as women. We get it. We make a chocolate cake. We and expensive ingredients, our time. We put it in the oven, and the recipe calls for 50 minutes, 50, at a 350-degree oven. There's not a one of us that puts that cake in and says, I know better than that recipe. I'm curious. After 10 minutes, you open the oven door and you jerk it out. No, that's not going to produce a good cake. And so when we understand that stocks are really for 7+ years and we put our money into stocks, and then after a year and a half, we get nervous or whatever, and we pull it out of stocks, perhaps at a loss. And then we falsely say, oh, stocks, I lost money on stocks. We didn't follow the recipe. So I'm all about giving women the recipe so that we can have small wins and those wins beget more wins. And this is an aspect that I say, pay attention to your money. It will pay you back.
It will definitely pay us back. And I know I've listened to you for years, and I know I've made some mistakes. I know you've made some mistakes. I bet every woman out there has made some mistakes. What do you say to someone who just feels completely paralyzed that they had a financial loss?
Well, this is really a very big occurrence in everyone's life. And yet, women tend to memorialize, if you will, these losses. They'll say to me, like on August 4th, 1974, I lost $6,000 in the stock market. And they're still very much in that. They know the date. And so I respect their pain. That's painful to them. And I empathize with them. I listen to that story. And then I discern with that woman what the lesson is from that. And I encourage her to face forward and then take constructive action, like arm in arm, because she's needing a bridge builder, if you will, to reintroduce her, bring her car back on the on ramp of financial security because she inadvertently got off and couldn't find her way back on. She couldn't see her way through possibility. Now, I've made financial missteps and I've recovered from them. And so, who would you rather coach with? A person that just feigns, oh, I've done everything brilliantly, which is seriously an overstatement. If Warren Buffett can admit to $4 billion mistakes, who are we to think we're going to foray into investing without making a single financial misstep? We will. Let's expect that. Learn how to, again, hold those lessons, learn from them, and face forward.
Now, I have some friends who happen to be women who think that the stock market is just way too risky. What kind of advice do you have for someone who feels like that?
Often fault the media for emphasizing that one R word about particularly the stock market. And we all know what that word is, right? And
Risk.
they had mentioned that to the exclusion of the other R word, which is return. So now, if we marry those, we understand that risk is the currency for our return. And that really is a dance that is very effectively utilized by successful investors and not one to the exclusion of the other, because it would just be like maybe peanut butter and jelly, like you have to smash them together, right? But the point is, I want us to get through that previous socialization that says, oh, don't put the money in the stock market. Oh, that's too to your point, right? Because when we look at the return study of the past 80+ years of stocks and bonds and certificates of depreciation deposit, as they relate to inflation, for example, we see that the clear winner is stocks. And yet women have not traditionally invested in stocks. And so they have sent bonds, which heretofore, the last 80 years, 5% return, stocks, 80+ year of history, 10% on average. Again, on average. 10 is about double 5. And so if women have only saved in bonds for that long term, they are sinking instead of swimming. So some women think, how, oh, if I start to deal with my finances, someone's going to tell me I have to save twice as much as I'm saving now. Maybe not. Maybe we simply route your savings from bonds, which are much more short term and lower return than long term, which typically involves stocks and real estate. But we really want to segment our goals with our timeline. Unless you have a life threatening diagnosis, I've got a plan, as I did as a practitioner, for you to live to 99. So there's going to be some time there, years 80 to 90, where you're still going to need cash. So you put that into something that's long term now, and you don't even look at it. You don't. You look at the next 5 years, you look at the next 3 years, you look at the next 12 months. So I want us to train our minds so that we have the focus on what I call the right syllable. And that's going to make the difference between us being successful investors and holding back and being undersaved. And I'm not so concerned about that. And I'm not interested in judging anybody. What I'm interested in is every woman getting to their later years in life and actually have the funding to give them choices about their money, have them be able to travel, have them be able to contribute more money to their charities, have them be able to go ahead and attend their grandkids' concerts and baseball games live and not on Zoom. And that's what this tool called money can do for you.
You mentioned time quite a bit in that little explanation there. How much time and effort is it going to take someone like me to figure this out, to learn this?
Again, I think a lot of it is putting our faith in ourselves and whomever we're coaching with, for example, in order to guide us so that we don't do missteps. And so I say to women, have you suffered enough? Has this kept you up enough nights or given you enough agita within your own health that you are ready to take action right now? And now it's a matter of seeking out the person or the type of advisor who is best suited to give you unbiased advice. And it's not your broker and it's not your insurance agent. It's not any professional who accepts a commission. There's a clear conflict of interest there. And so I want to say we need to seek out fiduciary planners that have only the advice that they're giving, the knowledge between their ears. On average, these professionals have over 20 years experience. That's the person you want looking at the array of products you have and say, Dottie, this product is going to work for your goal and this one not so much. We're going to bring in this product and make sense of it. Women need context for all of these annuities, life insurance policies, exchange traded funds, mutual funds. They need to know how they fit together, if they fit together. And I want us to be courageous enough to take those steps and to follow that advice, because that will catapult us into much more rapid compounding, which Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, and financial success.
So, what I heard you say is I don't really have to learn all of this myself. I just need to find a trusted advisor who can give me the correct advice and just follow what they do, like that original recipe that you were talking about.
Exactly. And we talked earlier about women paralyzed from previous missteps. And some of those have been at the hands of a male life insurance agent who went to church with the couple for 40 years, sat in the same pew. And I have an instance like that in my history. Yes, I do. And when that husband died in this couple, this male insurance agent who had sold them the life insurance policy went to the woman's house and said, Betty wasn't her name, you don't want to take any risk with this, do you? And of course, Betty's crying her eyes out. And he has her sign over the back of the death proceeds check to buy a big fat variable annuity on which he's earning a huge commission. I got introduced to this woman about 6 months afterwards, long past the time you can undo that. I felt so passionately about that. I went to the insurance commissioner in the state and unwound that. It took me 7 months. I did not bill the widow because I felt so poorly that here's a trusting individual that was led astray because of a commission. I reversed it, and that agent was charged back over $68,000 of commission. This happens far too much to far too many mature women. And so when women or men are widowed, I want us to get good advice. I'm actually a certified grief coach, and I wrote this book. My husband died. Now what? A Widow's Guide to Grief Recovery and Smart Financial Decisions. And one piece of advice is have a 6-month, at least, no decision zone. you're in no shape to make an intellectual decision. And so this is the information that is out there for widows and non-widows, anyone to tap. And yet we've been barraged by our broker and our insurance agent because they have a big vested interest to barrage us, do they not? And we haven't realized that there are fiduciary professionals out there ready and eager to help guide us and get us onto what I call the fast track to our financial empowerment.
You just said that you were a certified grief coach.
Yes.
Do you offer private coaching or how does that what does that look like for you?
I did as I was getting certified, and now I don't do that any longer. And yet I weave in, Dottie, the principles of grief recovery because grief is a very heavy blanket. And I don't believe it's limited. I know it's not limited to just losing, just, I won't say minimize it, to losing a partner, for example. It really has cast, I think the 2008 recession cast a pall on America,
Mm.
at least. And it's just kind of tamped everybody down so that you hardly have a dream anymore. When I ask people what their goals were, their goals, how do you spell that? Because we got the umption punched out of us really quickly. And that's what a death will do, especially. And so we need to process that in a way that we can start to gain pieces of confidence and piece them together in order to create our next new chapter. And I say to widows in particular, everyone wore those bracelets for a while. What would Jesus do? I said, what would your partner have you do? You see, there's a reason you're still here. I don't know what it is. And that's our task. And once that woman can have her story heard, be empathized with, and realize that she has time now to devote to her next chapter. And I know it sounds strange, but almost to a widow, I've heard after a certain period of time, Deborah, the worst thing that ever happened to me ended up being the best thing because they don't take
Mm.
people or time for granted anymore. So let's not wait for a death or a diagnosis to get serious about our imprint on this life. And most importantly, our pleasure while we're in this life. We can do this, women. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. And what makes you unique in your field, Deborah?
First of all, having 42 years boots on the ground as a woman, too, I'm probably one of three, literally, women in the United States that can claim that. And so we've solved clients' challenges over the decades, and they've lived untethered lives. You've read about that. Untethered lives. My clients lived that. See, we achieved dreams beyond their wildest imaginations. Once we primed that pump, hey, what are you looking to do? What could you do with your money? And once that lid is taken off, if you will, then people get more curious and then they say, oh, I could do this. And then they come back after a year and they say, oh, we could do this. Like a couple of mine donated a rose window to their church in Florida every Sunday and Wednesday when they went in that church. There's the rose window donated by in their names. People thanked them while they were there. And when the husband died, they thanked the widow for doing that thing. And so it was true to them. So I'm interested in money, bringing our money into congruence with our goals. And they loved that church. And so that was a really good use of money. And so I'm interested in basically getting around to the truths about money. I don't have any time for superfluous noise. I don't have time for mistruths, untruths. I just don't. And time is of the essence. I was asked on CNN across from Stuart Varney, Deborah, what's your best asset? And of course, across the Chiron, Debra Morrison, certified financial plan. And I was just like, oh God, give me the answer because who knows what I should be saying, right? I had plenty of stocks that did great, real estate that did great. And God gave me the answer. And out comes this. Stuart, I have two assets in life, time and health. I don't want to waste either one of them. He had to take a station break. Oh my gosh, we got a certified financial planner talking about time and health. And ever since then, I have really honed that in my messaging to give women the urgency. There's no time like today. We have to get compounding working for us. And let's start now.
I see that you have a course called 5 Milestones to Creating Intentional Wealth. Can you tell me what intentional wealth means?
Some people inherit wealth and sometimes they blow it and so forth. And on rare occasion, they don't. But I'm talking about women becoming intentional about their attitudes, about their spending, their attitudes about stopping up the financial leaks. It's not just to say, okay, here's maybe where you can route your savings and investing in a smarter way, or inviting them to go out and get 3 part-time jobs to have more streams of income. It's also about looking around and saying, "Hey, are you spending in an incongruent fashion to your values?" And so that's why I encourage people to do budgets. I'm gonna come along with some kind of a ruler and wrap anybody's knuckles. Here's what you're spending. But when people do that, Dottie, they see with their own eyes. I had a woman come and throw a half pack of cigarettes on my desk and say, "I quit smoking. I saw what it cost me." And she rerouted those monies to something she wanted. This is why when we do goals and dreams, I ask my clients to do vision boards so that we have in our mind. And sometimes people put them on their cell phones as their screen. And then when they're like looking to buy a gadget or push buy now on Amazon, they say, wait a minute. Wait, I wanna have that second home in 5 years. And so it's kinda like a child in a grocery store, right? They're pulling off everything and you're saying, "No, you don't want that because 'cause you're gonna go want this." And so that's what I want us to train our minds. What do we want? And what are we just on autopilot? "Yeah, I've always done that. Yeah, I've always gotten coffee before. I've always eaten lunch out." Let's retrain our minds towards pure intentionality, conscious decision making, and that's going to make a huge difference in our success.
If someone wants to work with you, Deborah, what is that going to cost or what does it look like?
Well, Donnie, my commitment is to make sure every woman is what I call a we can do it woman. And I've got a wide variety of ways that I provide resources, education, and connection for extraordinary women to become what I say even brighter beacons. And a we can do it woman is, in my humble opinion, a woman that takes radical responsibility for where she is and is committed to moving forward. She expects and accepts the unexpected when it happens, able to pivot. She discerns when to lead and when to follow. She possesses emotional intelligence, interweaves that with intellect for positive decision making, and she steps up and she steps out and she makes a lasting difference. So my programs range all the way from $100 to a couple thousand to high level masterminds for those female leaders ready to catapult themselves and their missions to the next level. And so feel free to book a call and discuss if any of my programs might be a fit for you.
Perfect. How will your coaching impact me?
Other my clients have said, "I lost my fear," right? And that's a beautiful thing. I feel proud now. I relish the choices that money buys. I'm now taking control of my money in what we call conscious consumerism. I'm determining what I'm going to spend on, and then I'm matching my goals with the appropriate investing. And so those are the impact statements that clients come back to me and report. And it just fills my heart because this is what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Can you share some transformations that you've facilitated with some women?
Again, we just covered some of those losing their fear. One woman said, "My risk tolerance has expanded so much because I now know that there are really benefits and extra rewards that I never thought possible." And so these are very valuable insights, and that will only grow as she starts to imagine what else and what else? How big of a difference can she make? Another woman was used to contributing to this cause. And I said to her, listen, remember, I'm dating myself, but back to the Jerry Lewis telethon days, when they had a corporation that was matching between 6 and 8. Boy, I'm on the phone then between 6 and 8 because my $200 is now $400, just how my mind works. And so what she realized was she went to that organization and said, listen, I'll match the first $5,000 in your fundraising program. Do you know that catapulted the fundraising so much? The woman said, we never had that many donors in that short a period of time. So these are the out of the box kinds of differences that we can make. Another woman saved a couple thousand on her homeowner's premium. Client saved 16,400 on her unclaimed assets. She didn't even know they existed. I gave her a link. I guided another woman who was dubious about what the bank was coming back to her with. And when I dissected it, I affirmed her caution about it. And the cost to doing what they were asking her to sign to do, Dottie, was over the period of the mortgage, $68,420. And so these are examples. I secured Social Security for a widow when the Social Security agent said to her on the phone, "No, you're not eligible for benefits." So, when people say, what can a good, no, some of those were when I was a financial planner, some of those are since I've been a financial and leadership coach. And yet people say, what can a financial coach really do for me? I can give you story beyond story. And so come aboard, test the waters. The water is fine. We can do this, women. Yes, we can.
It sounds like you are an advocate for me if
For
I
sure.
use your services.
For sure. That's exactly right. Because there's so many things that people don't know outside their own swim lane professionally. You've been trained as you've been trained. I happen to be trained in finances. So I have this reservoir that I can tap, right? And when do it yourselfers would come to me and they would tick off what they've done over the years, generally they were really smart, Dottie, in investing. They didn't have a clue about risk management, diversification, return risk, Monte Carlo simulation, none of this. And I was chewing the inside of my cheeks more times than not. Oh, I could have saved you $40,000 there. And it was true, right? And so I want to expand our concept of financial planning rather than us being myopic about this stock versus that stock. Hey, how about managing our risks? I want to say one lawsuit can ruin your entire morning
Or year.
or life. And so let's be about all of the facets of it. And no one person can know all those like a fiduciary financial planner who we had continuing ed requirements in each of these areas: law, risk management, insurance, investing, budgeting and cash flow, tax. I'm probably missed some. And your broker and your insurance agent, no. So we need to be stewards of the source of our information. It's not enough to tell people, go, women, go become financially literate, banish us to the library for 8 more years. Nonsense. Let's seek out fiduciary fee only planners to give us the knowledge that integrates each of the capacities, each of the fields of financial planning so that our route is the express route to achieving our goals.
Is there any more little golden nuggets that you want to share with the audience here?
I am completely about education and giving, dispensing hope, if you will. Being a cheerleader on the side. I've been called so many different adjectives. And when I speak about money, people say, I never heard a financial planner talk about money like you talk about. And I say, good, because are you getting it? Yeah, yeah, I'm getting it. And it's not as scary as I thought. So I will be in a relationship with you that hopefully will tear down some of that language barrier and any barrier that has caused you to not achieve more swift results. And I have an app now that you can download. It's called We Can Do It Women. So go in the App Store and download We Can Do It Women or ping our team at wecandoitwomen.com. Happy to answer your questions. And I just want to say, start now. There's no time to start like now. You can do this. We can do it, women.